On the day I filed for divorce, my husband Richard laughed and said, "You'll never amount to anything without me. You're just a seamstress playing dress up." He watched me walk away, confident I'd come crawling back within weeks. But 3 years later, he saw me on the cover of Vogue, not as a broken woman, but as a fashion empire builder who turned his mockery into Milan runways.
Before we jump back in, tell us where you're tuning in from, and if this story touches you, make sure you're a subscriber, because tomorrow, I've saved something extra special for you. Tell us a duh.
The divorce papers feel heavy in my hands as Richard's laughter echoes through the courthouse hallway. A fashion designer? He adjusts his expensive Rolex, a gift he bought himself with our joint savings. "Claude, you'll never make it in the fashion world. You're just a seamstress who hems pants for spare change." I clutch my worn leather portfolio tighter, already envisioning the day when my designs would grace red carpets instead of suburban closets. Before we begin, here's a story about transforming life's harshest criticisms into couture creations. If you've ever been told you're not good enough, this journey from sewing machine prisoner to fashion empire queen will show you exactly how dreams can be tailored into reality. Richard's laugh follows me down the marble corridor, a sound I've grown to despise over our 7-year marriage. The same laugh that accompanied every denied purchase for fabric, every budget discussion that left me feeling smaller than the buttons I sewed onto his shirts. The laugh that echoed through our designer home, when I dared to mention fashion school, or starting my own boutique. "Need some spending money, darling." Richard's voice drips with condescension as he pulls out his wallet. The gesture makes my blood boil. It's the same routine he's performed countless times in front of our friends, playing the role of the generous provider. But I know better now. Each dollar came with invisible threads attached, each purchase scrutinized in his meticulously kept spreadsheets. I remember the day I discovered the truth about our finances. It wasn't the expensive watches or the country club memberships that broke me. It was finding the bank statement showing he'd spent $8,000 on a luxury cruise with his business partners. The same week he denied me $150 for quality fabric to complete a wedding dress commission. "We need to be practical with our money, Claude," he'd said then. "Sewing is a hobby, not a business. Our resources need to go toward real investments." Our resources. The words taste bitter now. 7 years of having to justify every yard of silk, every packet of pins, every new pattern. 7 years of watching him swipe our joint credit card for business dinners, while I collected fabric scraps from discount bins. 7 years of shared finances that somehow never seemed to share anything with my dreams. The judge was quite generous with the settlement, wasn't he? Richard's voice carries down the hallway. "But we both know you won't last 6 months without access to my accounts. Running a fashion business requires capital, dear, something you clearly lack." His eyes scan my simple black dress, the one I'd sewn myself from clearance fabric, and I see the familiar look of dismissal. My fingers trace the worn leather of my portfolio, safely hidden under my arm. He never understood why I kept this collection of amateur sketches, as he called them. Never noticed how I documented every financial slight, every withdrawn amount, every suspicious transaction in its margins. Between design sketches for evening gowns and day dresses, I built my case, thread by thread, receipt by receipt. "I've frozen all our joint accounts," he calls out, his voice echoing off the walls. "Standard procedure, you understand. Can't have you making any rash decisions with our money." The emphasis he places on "our" makes my skin crawl. I turn, meeting his gaze for the final time. "Our money, Richard? You mean the $250,000 you've been transferring from our joint account into your private business account, the one you thought I didn't know about?" The smirk falls from his face like fabric slipping from a cutting table. Or perhaps you mean the secret account you opened in Switzerland, where you've been hiding your executive bonuses for the past 4 years. His face pales, the Rolex catching the fluorescent light as his hand falls to his side. For the first time, there's no laughter, no condescending smile. How did you 7 years of controlling every penny I spent taught me a lot about tracking money, Richard. You should have let me take that business course I wanted. Might have helped me miss some of those transactions you were hiding. I pull out a folder from my portfolio, watching his eyes widen as he recognizes his own bank statements. The judge found these quite interesting during our private hearing last week, as did the forensic accountant I hired. The sound of my heels clicking against the marble floor is more satisfying than any sewing machine's rhythm as I walk away. Behind me, I hear him frantically pulling out his phone, no doubt calling his lawyer, but it's too late. The accounts he used to control me for years have become the evidence of his downfall. My hand rests on the courthouse door, feeling the weight of freedom beyond it. Oh, and Richard, I turn one last time, savoring the panic in his eyes. Thank you for teaching me the importance of keeping detailed records. It's a skill that will serve me well in building my fashion empire. The sunlight hits my face as I step outside, warming me like the heat of a steam iron on silk. In my portfolio, my design sketches hold more than just fashion dreams. They contain proof of every financial manipulation, every hidden account, every lie he fed me along with his criticism of my work. Richard thought he was keeping me confined to our home sewing room, but he really just taught me how to stitch together the perfect revenge. My first apartment after leaving Richard could fit inside our old walk-in closet. The sewing corner consists of my grandmother's vintage Singer machine squeezed between a kitchenette and a Murphy bed. The ironing board doubles as my cutting table, and fabric bolts are stacked wherever they fit. But it's mine. Every cramped inch, every creative corner belongs to me. The job at Henrietta's Alterations isn't glamorous. My hands stay busy with hemming pants and taking in waists for 8 hours a day. But between the pins and measuring tape, I watch. I learn. I study the construction of every garment that crosses my table, from discount store dresses to designer pieces brought in by wealthy clients. You missed a stitch, Henrietta Beck says one evening, pointing to a bridesmaid dress I've just finished. But there's curiosity in her voice as she watches me examine the garment's original construction. You're different from other seamstresses, Claude. You study the design more than the alterations. That night, after my shift, I pull out the fashion school application I've hidden in my portfolio. My hands tremble as I fill it out, remembering Richard's mocking voice. But the memory only strengthens my resolve. The registration fee takes half my first paycheck, but as I slip the envelope into the mailbox, I feel lighter than chiffon in a spring breeze. The night classes are exhausting. I rush from Henrietta's Alterations to the Fashion Institute, still smelling of fabric sizing and steam, changing into my student uniform in fluorescent-lit bathroom stalls. My sketching is rusty, my pattern-making clumsy, but with each mistake I feel more alive than I ever did in Richard's pristine home office where he balanced his hidden accounts. The other students are mostly 20-somethings fresh from high school, discussing their dreams with the casual confidence of people who've never been told their aspirations are worthless. I sit in the back row, trying to blend in while fighting the voice in my head that still echoes Richard's dismissive laughter. When the instructor calls on me, my hands shake as I hold up my imperfect sketches. Your draping needs work, my instructor Mary Sykes says during our third week, examining the muslin draped over my dress form. The fabric hangs awkwardly, betraying my inexperience with three-dimensional construction. But your eye for proportion, she pauses, studying how I've instinctively adjusted the waistline to create a more flattering silhouette. That's something we can't teach. Her encouragement feels like water to someone dying of thirst.
Preparing and narrating this story took us a lot of time, so if you are enjoying it, subscribe to our channel. It means a lot to us. Now back to the story.
For 8 years, Richard criticized every creative choice I made, from the colors I chose for our home to the way I arranged flowers. Now a professional instructor sees potential in work I'm embarrassed to display. The homework assignments consume my evenings. After 8 hours on my feet at Henrietta's shop, I spread pattern pieces across my tiny apartment floor, crawling around on my knees to trace seam lines and mark darts. My neighbors probably think I'm losing my mind, but each completed assignment represents another small victory over the voice that insists I'm not capable of real achievement. "You're different from the other night students," observes Jennifer, a classmate who works days as a bank teller. "They all seem so confident about their future fashion careers. You work like someone who's fighting for something." She's more perceptive than she realizes. Every stitch I sew, every pattern I perfect, every technique I master represents proof that Richard was wrong about my potential. The young students around me are chasing dreams. I'm building evidence. Word spreads through the alterations shop that the seamstress is a culinary student. The comparison makes me smile. I'm creating wearable art instead of edible masterpieces, but the dedication required feels identical. The line cooks start leaving small challenges for me. Herbs to chop become complex alterations to attempt, sauces to stir, become tricky repairs to master, vegetables to prep, become vintage garments requiring historical construction knowledge. Mrs. Chen, our elderly seamstress who's worked in alterations for 40 years, becomes an unexpected mentor. She watches me struggle with a particularly challenging zipper installation one evening, then quietly demonstrates a technique her grandmother taught her in Hong Kong. "Patience," she says in her careful English, her weathered hands moving with incredible precision. Good sewing not about speed, about respect for fabric, for construction, for person who will wear. Her philosophy echoes my grandmother's approach, creating a bridge between generations of women who understood that craftsmanship matters more than efficiency. The relationship with my fellow students evolves slowly. Initially intimidated by their youth and confidence, I gradually realize that my life experience provides advantages they lack. When they struggle with client communication during our retail simulation exercises, I draw on years of managing Richard's business dinners and social obligations. When they panic about project deadlines, I apply time management skills learned from juggling his demands with my own suppressed ambitions. One quiet Tuesday evening, Henrietta catches me experimenting with a design modification in my notebook, while hemming a customer's dress. I freeze, expecting to be reprimanded for not focusing on alterations work. Instead, she examines my sketch, a complete redesign that transforms the dated dress into something contemporary and elegant. "Interesting," she murmurs, studying the flowing lines I've drawn. "You've maintained the original silhouette, but updated the details completely." The customer mentioned she felt frumpy in this dress when she brought it in. She looks up at me with calculating eyes. "How would you feel about taking on some custom work? We have clients asking for original designs, not just alterations." The promotion means longer hours and more responsibility, but it also represents validation from someone who's built a successful business in the fashion industry. Custom work pays significantly better than basic alterations, and I accept without hesitation. That night, I add another entry to my journal: custom designer Henrietta's alterations. Below it, I sketch out my 5-year plan, each step taking me closer to my own atelier. The advanced pattern making course pushes my skills to new levels. We learn to create original patterns from scratch, translating 2-dimensional sketches into 3-dimensional garments that fit real bodies with real proportions. The mathematics involved: calculating ease, adjusting for fabric grain, ensuring proper balance, appeals to the analytical mind, Richard always dismissed as unsuited for creative work. My first original pattern is for a wrap dress that flatters a variety of body types, while incorporating construction details I've learned from studying vintage garments. The instructor uses it as an example for other students, praising the way I've solved common fitting problems through innovative seaming techniques. This shows real understanding of how clothing should move with the body, she tells the class, holding up my muslin prototype. Notice how she's used princess seams to create shape without darts, and see this clever detail at the shoulder that prevents gaping. The technical language feels like poetry, terms that describe precise solutions to aesthetic challenges. A week later, a familiar face appears in the shop's fitting room. Elizabeth Gold, Richard's former secretary. My heart stops until I realize she's alone, examining herself in a dress I've completely redesigned for her sister's wedding. The original piece was a shapeless mother of the bride dress in an unflattering shade of beige. My modifications have transformed it into something elegant and contemporary, while maintaining appropriate formality. She doesn't recognize me immediately, focused on how the new design flatters her figure in ways the original never could. "This is incredible," she tells Henrietta, turning to see the dress from different angles. "I felt so frumpy when I first tried this on, but now it actually makes me feel beautiful." "Did you hear about Richard Matthews?" she says to Henrietta, while I pin her hem, my heart hammering with sudden attention. The IRS investigation is tearing his consulting firm apart. He's been selling personal assets just to pay his legal fees. Word around the office is he can barely afford his mortgage payments anymore. I continue pinning with steady hands, though my pulse quickens with each detail. The man who controlled every penny of our household budget is now struggling to maintain the lifestyle he built through financial manipulation. He's been showing up to client meetings looking completely disheveled. Elizabeth continues. Lost 3 major accounts last month alone. The vindication tastes sweeter than any dessert, but it's tempered by genuine focus on my work. The woman receiving this gossip isn't the same person who left that courthouse 3 years ago. I'm too busy building my own success to dwell on his failures, though the information does provide satisfying confirmation that consequences eventually catch up with poor choices. That evening, I stay late again, this time working on a fusion design that combines my grandmother's 1940s construction techniques with contemporary silhouettes I'm developing in night school. The piece represents everything I'm learning. Respect for traditional craftsmanship combined with innovation that serves modern women's needs. Henrietta watches silently as I drape fabric over the dress form, creating something that bridges generations of fashion knowledge. "You know," she says, examining my work with the critical eye of someone who's seen thousands of garments, "there's a local fashion competition coming up next month. Small stakes compared to the big industry events, but excellent exposure for emerging designers. Your technique still needs polish, but this," she gestures to my creation, "this tells a story that people want to hear." I think of Richard, probably sitting in his oversized house, surrounded by financial documents and legal papers, dealing with the consequences of choices he made while trying to control me. Meanwhile, I'm here in this warm creative space, my hands creating beauty from raw materials, my mind buzzing with possibilities for each new design challenge I encounter. "Sign me up," I say, already envisioning the collection I'll create for the competition. In my portfolio, between the financial records that helped destroy my ex-husband's fraudulent empire and the fashion sketches that fuel my expanding future, I begin planning my competition entry. Each design will tell part of my story, the story of breaking free from limitation and finding my own authentic voice in silk, cotton, and creativity. The local fashion competition represents more than just professional opportunity. It symbolizes my complete transformation from controlled wife to independent artist ready to stake my claim in an industry that Richard once dismissed as beneath my supposed capabilities. The local fashion competition changes everything, but not in the way I initially expect. Under the harsh spotlight of the community center's makeshift runway, I stand backstage with my completed collection, watching established designers prepare their models with the casual confidence of people who've done this dozens of times before. My hands tremble as I help my single model, a Phoenix program volunteer named Amanda, who agreed to walk for free into my signature piece. The dress represents months of work, combining my grandmother's 1940s construction techniques with contemporary silhouettes that I've refined through countless late-night sessions at Henrietta's shop. Next designer, Claude Beck, the announcer begins, and I interrupt firmly, Claude Cole, reclaiming my maiden name. The correction feels like stepping into a perfectly tailored garment after years of wearing someone else's clothes. Several audience members murmur at the interruption, but I stand straighter, finally comfortable with claiming space for myself. The head judge, celebrity stylist Spencer Gold, raises an eyebrow at my correction before turning his attention to my designs. His reputation in the fashion industry is legendary. He's styled A-list celebrities for red carpet events and has launched several successful designers' careers through his endorsements. Having him evaluate my work feels simultaneously thrilling and terrifying. The silence as Amanda walks in my signature piece seems eternal. I watch Spencer's critical eye follow every movement, noting how the dress transforms from classic elegance to modern sophistication with each step. The construction details I've labored over, the way the seams follow the body's natural lines, how the fabric drapes without clinging, the subtle architectural elements that provide structure without stiffness, are all being evaluated by someone whose opinion can make or break emerging designers. My collection tells a cohesive story across 5 pieces: a day dress that transitions seamlessly from professional to casual, an evening gown that honors vintage glamour while feeling completely contemporary, a structured blazer that flatters multiple body types, separates that can be mixed and matched for versatility, and my signature cocktail dress that serves as the collection's centerpiece. Miss Cole, Spencer says after my final model exits, his voice carrying across the room with the authority of someone accustomed to being heard. This collection shows remarkable understanding of construction fundamentals, while pushing creative boundaries in subtle but significant ways. Tell me, where did you learn to blend historical techniques with contemporary design so seamlessly? Before I can answer, a commotion near the entrance catches my attention and stops my heart completely. Richard stands there, looking expensive but oddly diminished among the fashion industry professionals and local arts supporters. He's holding a copy of the local newspaper, and I can see my name prominently featured in the lifestyle section's preview article. Local seamstress turns heads with vintage modern fusion competition entry. The sight of him threatens to unravel my carefully constructed confidence. But I force myself to focus on Spencer's question. The foundation techniques came from my grandmother, I say, my voice gaining strength as I speak. She taught me that fashion history isn't a museum display. It's a blueprint for innovation. The contemporary elements come from my own vision. My journey to find my authentic design voice after years of suppression. The last word carries more weight than I intended, but Spencer nods with understanding. The fashion industry is full of people who've had to fight for recognition, who've overcome obstacles to pursue their creative vision. My story resonates because struggle and eventual triumph are common themes among successful designers. Your technical execution is impressive for someone at your experience level, continues Judge Maria Santos, a fashion school dean whose opinion carries significant weight in academic circles. But what strikes me most is the narrative coherence across all 5 pieces. This isn't just a collection of pretty dresses. It's a complete worldview expressed through clothing. Her observation hits precisely what I've been trying to achieve. Each piece in my collection represents different aspects of the woman I've become: professional, elegant, strong, versatile, and ultimately triumphant. The clothes tell the story of transformation from controlled circumstances to authentic self-expression. The judging deliberation takes 45 minutes while contestants and audience members mingle nervously in the community center's lobby. I find myself standing near the refreshment table, accepting congratulations from other designers and local fashion enthusiasts who've been following my work through Henrietta's shop and social media coverage. "Your use of traditional construction methods is really innovative," comments Sarah Mitchell, an established designer who's won this competition twice before. "Most emerging designers focus on trendy silhouettes and ignore the fundamentals. Your pieces look like they'll last for decades, not just one season." Her professional validation means more than she realizes. The fashion industry often celebrates disposable trends over lasting quality, but my grandmother's influence taught me that well-made clothes should improve with age, developing character through wear rather than falling apart after minimal use. During the wait, I notice Richard hovering near the entrance, clearly debating whether to approach me. His presence feels surreal after months of focusing entirely on my own growth and development. The man who once controlled every aspect of my creative expression is now watching me receive professional recognition in an environment where his business expertise means nothing. When the judges return to announce results, the tension in the room becomes palpable. Third place goes to a young designer whose avant-garde collection impressed with its conceptual boldness. Second place is awarded to Sarah Mitchell for her masterful use of sustainable fabrics and zero-waste construction techniques. First place in innovation, Spencer announces his voice-building anticipation, goes to Claude Cole for her exceptional fusion of historical craftsmanship with contemporary design sensibility. The category win isn't the overall victory, but it represents exactly the recognition I'd hoped to achieve: acknowledgement that my approach offers something unique and valuable to the fashion conversation. The applause that follows feels like validation for every late night spent perfecting techniques, every moment of doubt overcome through persistent practice, every risk taken in pursuing a dream that Richard had dismissed as impossible. More importantly, the local fashion bloggers and journalists in attendance are particularly interested in my story of transformation, asking detailed questions about my background and design philosophy. "Your journey from alterations work to original design is really compelling," notes Jessica Chen, the lifestyle editor whose coverage can significantly impact local designers' careers. Readers love stories about people who refuse to accept limitations, who find ways to pursue their passions despite obstacles. As I accept my certificate and the modest cash prize that comes with the Innovation Award, I catch Richard's expression from across the room. The confident smirk he wore during our divorce proceedings has been replaced by something more complex: surprise, perhaps even a grudging respect for what I've accomplished. The next morning, Henrietta greets me with a stack of phone messages and email printouts. "Your competition win brought attention we've never had before," she explains, showing me requests for custom work, interview inquiries, and even an appointment request from a buyer for a small boutique chain. Word spreads quickly through the local fashion community in ways I hadn't anticipated. The competition might have been small-scale, but the industry connections present have networks that extend far beyond our city. Within a week, I receive an email that changes my trajectory completely. Catherine Lin, owner of 3 successful fusion restaurants in the city, wants to discuss potential business opportunities. "I was at the competition supporting a friend," she explains during our coffee meeting the following Tuesday. Your collection caught my attention because it reminded me of my own approach to business, respecting tradition while innovating fearlessly. I'd be interested in discussing investment opportunities for a designer with your vision and work ethic. That conversation plants seeds for everything that follows, the first real business partnership that will enable me to move beyond alterations work into original design full-time. But even more significantly, the competition proves to myself and everyone who witnessed it that the woman Richard tried to keep small has developed into someone capable of commanding professional respect through talent and dedication. The Innovation Award certificate hangs in my tiny apartment, but it represents much more than recognition for a single collection. It's proof that authentic vision, supported by solid technical skills and unwavering persistence, can overcome any attempt to limit creative potential. The seamstress who once begged for fabric money has become a designer whose work merits serious attention from industry professionals. Standing in Henrietta's shop the morning after the competition, surrounded by the tools and workspace that nurtured my growth, I realized that winning wasn't really about defeating other competitors. It was about proving to myself that the dreams I'd protected and developed in secret were worthy of public recognition and professional pursuit. The woman who walked away from that courthouse has finally stepped fully into her authentic creative identity, ready for whatever challenges and opportunities come next. The weeks following my competition win blur together in a whirlwind of opportunities I never could have imagined during my years of controlled circumstances. My tiny apartment transforms into a makeshift business headquarters, with fabric samples, sketches, and client consultation notes covering every available surface. The phone rings constantly with requests that range from simple alterations to complete wardrobe transformations. Catherine Lynn's investment offer proves to be the catalyst that changes everything. Over multiple meetings at her downtown office, a space that radiates the same sophisticated confidence I'm learning to cultivate, we develop a partnership structure that will allow me to focus on design while she handles the business development aspects. I'm still learning to navigate. Your competition piece showed something rare in emerging designers. Catherine explains during our third meeting, spreading financial projections across her conference table. Technical mastery combined with authentic vision. Most young designers have one or the other, but rarely both. That combination, properly supported, can build something significant. Her confidence in my potential feels simultaneously thrilling and terrifying. The same woman who once had to justify buying basic sewing supplies is now discussing business loans, retail partnerships, and expansion timelines with someone whose investment decisions have launched several successful ventures. The first major breakthrough comes from the most unexpected source. Elizabeth Gold, Richard's former secretary who had unknowingly witnessed my early design work during her fitting at Henrietta's shop, calls with a request that will change my entire trajectory. She's now working as a personal assistant to Hollywood actress Miranda Stone, who's preparing for award season and needs a custom gown that reflects both glamour and sophistication. Miss Cole, I've been following your work since that dress you redesigned for me. Elizabeth explains during our initial consultation call. Miranda saw photos from your competition win and was particularly drawn to your vintage-inspired approach with modern silhouettes. She's interested in commissioning a piece for the Golden Globes. Are you available for a consultation? The commission represents everything I've been working toward condensed into a single high-stakes project. Creating a gown for someone who'll be photographed by international media requires precision, creativity, and confidence levels I'm still developing. But Catherine's partnership has provided the financial cushion to take risks, and this opportunity could establish my reputation far beyond local fashion circles. The design process for Miranda's gown becomes an intensive education in high-end fashion production. We spend hours discussing her personal style, the message she wants to convey, and the technical requirements for a dress that must photograph beautifully from every angle while allowing her to move comfortably through a long evening of events. I want something that honors classic Hollywood glamour but doesn't feel like a costume. Miranda explains during our second fitting session. Your competition piece had that perfect balance. It was clearly inspired by vintage design but felt completely contemporary and fresh. Working with her team, a stylist, publicist, and hair makeup artists who've worked with A-list celebrities for decades, provides insights into the fashion industry's highest levels that no school could teach. Every detail matters at this level: how the fabric catches light under different types of photography, how the silhouette reads in motion, how the color complements her skin tone and the event's overall aesthetic. The gown takes 6 weeks to complete, with multiple fittings and adjustments that push my technical skills to new limits. The construction combines traditional couture techniques my grandmother taught me with contemporary innovations that ensure comfort and durability. Hand-beaded details require hundreds of hours of work, but the result justifies every minute spent perfecting placement and tension. Golden Globes night arrives with the surreal quality of watching someone else's life unfold. I'm not attending the event, but I'm glued to the red carpet coverage, watching Miranda pose for photographers wearing a creation that began as sketches in my tiny apartment. When fashion commentators praise the gown's perfect fusion of vintage inspiration and contemporary sophistication, I have to resist calling everyone I know to share the validation. The impact is immediate and overwhelming. By the next morning, my phone has 23 missed calls from stylists, fashion editors, and potential clients who want to know who designed that stunning dress. My email inbox crashes from the volume of inquiries, and Henrietta's shop receives calls from people trying to track down my contact information. You need a proper studio and business infrastructure immediately, Catherine advises during our emergency meeting the day after the Golden Globes. This level of attention requires professional systems you don't currently have in place. We need to move fast while the momentum is building. Within 2 weeks, we've secured a lease on a beautiful space in the Arts District, a former photography studio with soaring ceilings, enormous windows, and enough room for multiple design stations. The renovation happens at lightning speed, creating an environment that reflects both my aesthetic sensibilities and the professional image necessary for high-end clientele. The first celebrity referral comes from Miranda herself. Her stylist recommends me to a pop star preparing for a major awards show, leading to a commission that's even more technically challenging than the Golden Globes gown. Each project builds on the previous one, establishing my reputation for creating pieces that photograph beautifully while serving the practical needs of women whose every public appearance is scrutinized by international media. Local fashion journalists begin requesting interviews about my rapid rise from alteration seamstress to celebrity designer. The story proves irresistible. The controlled wife who discovered her talent after escaping financial manipulation, building a fashion business that now attracts Hollywood's attention. Each article generates additional client inquiries and partnership opportunities. Your journey resonates because it's both specific and universal, explains Maria Rodriguez, the fashion editor whose feature article will appear in the city's premier lifestyle magazine. Every woman who's been underestimated or controlled sees possibility in your success. But it's not just inspiration, it's practical proof that talent, given proper support and opportunity, can create remarkable results. The interview process helps me articulate my design philosophy more clearly. Each piece I create tells a story about the woman wearing it, her confidence, her individuality, her understanding of her own power and beauty. Fashion becomes a tool for transformation, allowing women to express their authentic selves while honoring the craftsmanship traditions that make quality clothing possible. International attention begins building as well. A fashion blogger from London features my work in her coverage of American designers to watch, noting how my approach differs from both fast fashion and traditional couture. European buyers express interest in carrying my designs, though the production scaling required for international distribution presents challenges I'm still learning to navigate. The day I receive an invitation to show at Metropolitan Fashion Week, initially as part of an emerging designers showcase, but still the platform that launches major careers, I call Catherine immediately to share the news. The woman who once documented financial abuse in the margins of her grandmother's patterns is now being invited to present her work to fashion industry professionals, who can reshape entire careers with their endorsements. This is what we've been building toward. Catherine reminds me as we begin planning the collection that will represent my Metropolitan Fashion Week debut. Everything up to this point has been in preparation for this moment. The technical skills, the business infrastructure, the celebrity endorsements, they've all been laying the foundation for this opportunity. Preparation for Fashion Week requires expanding my team significantly. I hired 2 additional seamstresses, a pattern maker, and a production coordinator who can manage the complex logistics of creating a cohesive collection under tight deadlines. The studio that seemed enormous when we first moved in now feels cramped with the activity required for professional fashion production. Each member of my growing team brings expertise that supplements my own developing skills. The pattern maker has worked with established fashion houses and teaches me advanced techniques for creating consistent fits across multiple sizes. The production coordinator helps establish systems for tracking materials, managing deadlines, and maintaining quality control standards that will be essential as my business continues growing. Late evenings in the studio become the norm as Fashion Week approaches, but the atmosphere feels nothing like the controlled environment of my marriage. This is collaborative creativity driven by shared commitment to excellence, not individual achievement, motivated by fear of criticism. When team members offer suggestions or identify potential improvements, their input is welcomed rather than dismissed. The collection for Metropolitan Fashion Week takes shape as my most ambitious project yet. 12 pieces that tell the complete story of contemporary women navigating professional and personal challenges while maintaining their authentic sense of style. Each garment can stand alone as a statement piece, but together they create a narrative about confidence, transformation, and the power of clothing to reflect inner strength. Standing in my studio late one evening, surrounded by the controlled chaos of Fashion Week preparation, I think about the woman who once hemmed pants for $8 an hour, while dreaming of something bigger. That woman could never have imagined commanding the attention of international fashion media, or building a team of skilled artisans dedicated to bringing her vision to life. The transformation feels both gradual and sudden, years of persistent skill development and confidence building compressed into months of accelerating opportunities and expanding recognition. But the foundation remains the same. Authentic creativity supported by solid technical skills and the unwavering belief that quality craftsmanship can create lasting value in an industry often focused on temporary trends. The countdown to Fashion Week continues, but I'm no longer the terrified seamstress asking permission to pursue her dreams. I'm a designer with something meaningful to contribute to the conversation about contemporary fashion, ready to claim my place among the industry's emerging voices. The space that will become a telecole stands empty before me, its soaring ceilings and industrial windows waiting to be transformed into my flagship design house. Mary walks beside me, her heels clicking on the polished concrete floors, as we discuss renovation plans for what will become the crown jewel of my expanding fashion empire. The building has incredible bones, Mary says, running her hand along the exposed brick walls. The previous tenant was a failed art gallery, but I see something completely different here.
Yeah, something uniquely you.
She pulls out the architectural renderings showing where my design studio will overlook the main retail floor, where clients can watch the creative process unfold in real time. The renovation begins with the same intensity I once brought to late-night sewing sessions. Every detail reflects my journey, from the custom display cases that will showcase my grandmother's vintage patterns to the state-of-the-art workroom, where my team will bring impossible visions to life. The centerpiece is my personal design studio, elevated above the main floor with floor-to-ceiling windows that flood the space with inspiration. Your story should be visible in every corner, the interior designer explains as we finalize the aesthetic. This isn't just a boutique. It's a testament to transformation, to the power of believing in your own vision when no one else will. The grand opening approaches with military precision. Fashion industry insiders, celebrities and journalists from around the world request invitations to what Vogue calls the most anticipated fashion event of the season. The guest list reads like a who's who of American style, but it's the unexpected RSVP that catches my attention. Rachel Richards' current girlfriend has somehow secured an invitation through her connections in the art world. She has no idea she's attending the triumph of the woman her boyfriend spent years trying to diminish. The irony tastes sweeter than the champagne we'll be serving. Opening night arrives in a whirlwind of last-minute preparations. Photographers document every detail as models showcase my latest collection throughout the multi-level space. The design studio glows under professional lighting, my grandmother's sewing machine prominently displayed alongside sketches for next season's innovations. The crowd fills the space with an energy I've never experienced, not the nervous anticipation of Fashion Week, but the celebration of something permanent, something built to last. Fashion critics examine each piece with the reverence usually reserved for museum exhibitions, while buyers place orders that will fund my expansion into global markets. From my elevated design studio, I watch the celebration unfold below. Through the large windows, I can see Rachel moving through the crowd, completely absorbed in the elegant atmosphere, taking photos for what I imagine is her social media documentation of the event. She has no idea that the woman whose success she's celebrating is the same woman Richard spent years telling would never amount to anything. The evening's highlight comes when Anna Sykes takes the microphone to address the crowd. Atelier Cole represents something rare in our industry, she announces to the attentive audience. Authentic vision combined with masterful technique, innovation rooted in respect for tradition. Claude Cole hasn't just built a business, she's created a destination for those who understand that true luxury lies in craftsmanship and story. As the applause fills the space, I step onto the mezzanine overlooking the main floor. The crowd below looks up expectantly, their faces reflecting appreciation for both the evening's elegance and the journey that brought me here. In the back corner, I spot a familiar figure trying to blend into the shadows. Richard stands near the entrance, looking expensive but uncomfortable among the fashion elite. He's holding a program with my name embossed in gold lettering, his expression a mixture of disbelief and something that might be regret. The same man who controlled every aspect of my creative expression now stands in a temple I built to artistic freedom. Thank you all for being here tonight. I begin my voice carrying clearly through the space. Atelier Cole represents more than fashion. It represents the power of persistence, the importance of believing in your vision even when others doubt it, and the truth that creativity will always find a way to flourish. The crowd responds with sustained applause, but I'm already thinking beyond this moment. Orders are pouring in from around the world. My design team is expanding to meet demand, and 3 major fashion houses have approached about collaboration opportunities. As the evening winds down, I retreat to my design studio overlooking the now empty main floor. The space still hums with possibility, with the energy of dreams made manifest through dedication and skill. My grandmother's sewing machine sits in its place of honor, a reminder that every empire begins with a single stitch. Tomorrow brings new challenges, international expansion plans, celebrity commissions, and the kind of opportunities that once seemed impossible. But tonight, I simply stand in the space I created, surrounded by the tangible proof that authentic talent, given freedom to grow, can transform not just a life but an entire industry. Through the window, I watch Richard's car pull away from the curb, carrying him back to whatever remains of his diminished world. His opinion of my potential, like his control over my dreams, has become irrelevant to my reality. The morning after Atelier Cole's opening, my assistant Elizabeth tells me that Harper's Bazaar wants to do an exclusive feature on my rapid rise in the fashion world. I'm in the middle of reviewing international expansion proposals when she delivers news that makes my coffee cup freeze halfway to my lips. CNN wants to profile me for their Innovators series, the same program Richard used to watch religiously while dismissing my amateur hobby. Your story has transcended fashion, the CNN producer explains during our pre-interview call. You represent something Americans need to hear, that reinvention is possible at any stage of life, that authentic talent will always find its audience. The irony isn't lost on me that the network Richard once quoted to support his business arguments now wants to showcase the woman he said would never succeed. The filming takes place over 3 days, documenting everything from my morning design process to client consultations at Atelier Cole. The cameras capture me working at my grandmother's sewing machine, creating prototypes for pieces that will soon grace red carpets and magazine covers. When the interviewer asks about my marriage, I choose my words carefully. Sometimes the people closest to us can't see our potential because they're invested in keeping us small. I say, my hands continuing to work the fabric as I speak. My ex-husband believed my value lay in supporting his dreams rather than pursuing my own. He was wrong about many things, but mostly he was wrong about underestimating what happens when you finally give someone permission to succeed. The feature airs on a Thursday evening, reaching millions of viewers who see my transformation from controlled housewife to fashion industry powerhouse. Within hours, my website crashes from traffic, and my publicist's phone rings nonstop with interview requests from international media outlets. But it's the personal message that arrives the next morning that changes everything. Spencer Gold, the judge for my first competition, who's now one of fashion's most influential stylists, wants to discuss a collaboration that could reshape my entire trajectory. I've been watching your career since that first competition, he says over lunch at the city's most exclusive restaurant. Your technical skills have evolved dramatically, but what impresses me most is your consistency of vision. I have a proposition that could accelerate your international presence exponentially. His proposal is ambitious beyond anything I've imagined. A capsule collection for one of Europe's most prestigious fashion houses, with my designs translated for a global audience, while maintaining my signature aesthetic. The collaboration would place my name alongside legendary designers, and establish me permanently in fashion's highest echelons. The creative director saw your CNN feature, Spencer explains, showing me preliminary sketches his team has prepared. She believes your approach to modernizing traditional techniques could revolutionize their ready-to-wear line. This isn't just about clothing, Claude, it's about establishing your legacy in fashion history. The contract negotiations happen at lightning speed. Within 2 weeks, I'm flying to Milan for meetings with the creative team, discussing how my grandmother's construction methods can be adapted for mass production without losing their essential character. The Italian artisans are fascinated by my techniques, treating my knowledge with the respect Richard never showed. Your approach bridges generations, the head seamstress tells me through a translator as she examines my hand-finished seams. In Italy, we understand that innovation must honor tradition. You have found this balance naturally. News of the collaboration sends shockwaves through the fashion industry. Trade publications call it the partnership that will define contemporary American design, while social media buzzes with anticipation for the collection's debut. Pre-orders begin before a single piece is completed, with buyers from major retailers competing for exclusive distribution rights. The international fashion press descends on Atelier Cole, transforming my design studio into a backdrop for profiles that will appear in magazines across 6 continents. My story, The Seamstress Who Became a Global Fashion Force, resonates with audiences far beyond the fashion world. You represent hope, a journalist from Paris Vogue tells me during her interview. In a time when people feel trapped by circumstances, you prove that reinvention is possible with enough determination and authentic talent. The collaboration collection launches simultaneously in 50 cities worldwide, accompanied by a documentary about my design process that streams globally. The opening night gala in Milan attracts fashion royalty, celebrities, and the kind of industry veterans who determine lasting success versus temporary fame. As I watch models present my designs on the Italian runway, pieces that began as sketches in my portfolio, while documenting Richard's financial betrayals, I think about the journey from that courthouse hallway to this moment of international recognition. The woman who once had to justify buying fabric is now setting trends that will influence fashion for seasons to come. Back home, I know Richard is watching the coverage, seeing my name mentioned alongside designers he once quoted to diminish my aspirations. But his validation, like his control, has become irrelevant to my reality. I've built something he could never understand. A career based on authentic creativity rather than financial manipulation. The Milan show ends with a standing ovation that lasts 5 minutes, the fashion elite recognizing not just talent but the rare courage to transform opposition into opportunity. The success of the Milan collaboration opens doors I never imagined possible. Within 6 months, Atelier Cole transforms from a single boutique to an international fashion house with flagship stores in New York, Paris, London, and Tokyo. Each location reflects my design philosophy while adapting to local aesthetics, my grandmother's vintage techniques reimagined through global perspectives. Your brand has achieved something remarkable, Mary tells me as we review the quarterly reports in my expanded corporate office. You've created a luxury fashion house that maintains authenticity across cultures. The Tokyo store is outselling our projections by 300%, and the waiting list for custom pieces extends 18 months. The expansion happens with surgical precision. Each new location requires local artisans trained in my specific construction methods, creating a network of skilled seamstresses who carry my vision to new markets. In Paris, I work with couture ateliers who've served fashion houses for generations. In Tokyo, master tailors adapt my techniques to their precision-focused craftsmanship philosophy. Then comes the invitation that represents the ultimate validation. The Council of Fashion Designers of America wants to present me with their Emerging Designer Award, the same recognition Richard once told me I'd never be qualified to dream about. The ceremony takes place at Lincoln Center, with the fashion industry's most influential figures gathering to celebrate the year's achievements. Standing backstage before my acceptance speech, I think about the woman who once sat in divorce court, clutching evidence of financial abuse while her husband laughed at her dreams. That woman couldn't have imagined standing here, about to address an audience of fashion luminaries who now consider her a peer. Claude Cole has redefined what it means to honor tradition while embracing innovation, the presenter announces to the glittering audience. Her rapid ascent from seamstress to global fashion force proves that authentic talent, given the freedom to flourish, can reshape entire industries. My acceptance speech focuses on persistence and vision rather than personal vindication. This award represents every woman who has been told her dreams are too small or too big, too traditional or too unconventional. I tell the audience, authentic creativity doesn't follow prescribed paths. It cuts its own pattern and stitches together possibilities others can't see. The standing ovation lasts longer than any I've experienced, but it's the moment after the ceremony that truly matters. Anna Sykes approaches with news that will transform my trajectory once again. Vogue wants to feature you on our September cover, she says, her words carrying the weight of fashion's most coveted honor. Not just your designs but your story. You've become a symbol of American entrepreneurship and creative resilience. The September issue of Vogue, fashion's most important editorial moment, typically features only the industry's most established icons. The cover shoot takes place at Atelier Cole with photographers transforming my design studio into a backdrop worthy of fashion history. They capture me at my grandmother's sewing machine, surrounded by sketches for next season's innovations, looking confident and contemplative. The image will be seen by millions worldwide, cementing my position in fashion's permanent hierarchy. Your journey resonates beyond our typical readership, the photographer explains between shots. Business schools are using your story in case studies about brand building and market disruption. You've proven that authentic vision can create sustainable competitive advantages. The international media attention spawns opportunities in adjacent industries. Publishers compete for my memoir rights, television producers pitch reality shows about aspiring designers, and major corporations seek partnerships with what they call the Atelier Cole aesthetic. Each proposal represents exponential growth potential, but I remain focused on maintaining the quality and vision that built my reputation. The memoir deal alone generates enough advance money to fund my next expansion phase. Within a year, Atelier Cole will open in Milan, Sydney, and Los Angeles, each location designed to showcase local interpretations of my signature style. The book titled Threading Dreams, A Seamstress's Journey to Fashion Summit becomes a bestseller before publication. During this whirlwind period of growth, I receive an unexpected email that brings my journey full circle. Henrietta writes from her original alterations shop, now struggling to compete with chain stores and online retailers. She asks if I'm interested in acquiring the business that gave me my first break, transforming it into Atelier Cole's training center for emerging seamstresses. It would mean everything to preserve this space where so many dreams began, she writes. You understand better than anyone how important it is to have a place where talent can develop without judgment. The acquisition happens within weeks, with Henrietta staying on as director of our new apprenticeship program. We renovate the space while preserving its essential character, creating a bridge between my humble beginnings and my current success. The first class of apprentices includes women escaping controlling relationships, recent immigrants seeking new opportunities, and career changers pursuing delayed dreams. Standing in the renovated space where I once hemmed pants for $8 an hour, I feel the satisfying weight of a cycle completed. The woman who once begged for fabric money now employs hundreds of artisans worldwide, each one carrying forward techniques that honor tradition while embracing innovation. Richard's dismissive laughter from that courthouse hallway seems like an echo from another lifetime, replaced by the productive hum of sewing machines, operated by women who understand that creativity, given freedom and support, can build empires. The success of my Metropolitan Fashion Week debut opens doors I never imagined possible during those early days of hemming pants and documenting Richard's financial betrayals. Within 6 months, what began as a single studio in the Arts District transforms into an international fashion house with flagship locations spanning 4 continents, each one reflecting my design philosophy while adapting to local aesthetics and cultural preferences. Your brand has achieved something extraordinary, Mary tells me as we review quarterly reports in my expanded corporate headquarters, a full floor of a downtown skyscraper that houses our design studios, business operations, and the growing team required to manage global expansion. You've created a luxury fashion house that maintains authenticity across completely different markets. The Tokyo flagship is outselling our most optimistic projections by 300%, and the waiting list for custom pieces now extends 18 months across all locations. The international expansion happens with the precision I once applied to documenting Richard's hidden financial accounts. Each new market requires extensive research into local fashion preferences, cultural sensitivities, and business practices that vary dramatically between countries. What works in the direct, efficiency-focused American market requires significant adaptation for the relationship-based business culture of Italy or the harmony-emphasizing society of Japan. In Milan, I partner with a family-owned atelier that has served luxury fashion houses for 4 generations. The head seamstress, Isabella Rossi, initially approaches our collaboration with skepticism, another American designer attempting to capitalize on Italian craftsmanship traditions without understanding their deeper cultural significance. But when she examines my grandmother's vintage construction techniques and sees how I've modernized them while maintaining their essential integrity, her attitude shifts completely. You understand that innovation must honor tradition, she tells me through our translator during my second visit to the Milan workshop. Many designers come here seeking only our reputation, not our knowledge. You bring knowledge of your own and seek partnership, not exploitation. Her endorsement opens doors throughout Milan's tight-knit fashion community, establishing credibility that takes most foreign designers years to achieve. The Tokyo expansion presents different challenges entirely. Japanese consumers expect perfection in ways that exceed even luxury European standards, and the attention to detail required for success in their market pushes my quality control systems to new levels. Every seam must be precisely executed, every button perfectly aligned, every hem exact to the millimeter. The discipline required reminds me of my grandmother's approach to sewing, the belief that shortcuts in construction ultimately show in the finished garment's longevity and appearance. Working with master tailor Hiroshi Tanaka teaches me construction techniques that have been refined over centuries. His approach to fitting garments to individual body proportions influences my understanding of how clothing should enhance rather than simply cover the human form. Each person's body tells a unique story, he explains during one of our collaboration sessions. Good clothing respects this story while helping tell it more beautifully. The London flagship occupies a Georgian townhouse in Mayfair that perfectly embodies the blend of historical respect and contemporary innovation that defines my brand. The renovation preserves original architectural details while incorporating modern lighting and display systems that showcase my designs against backgrounds that honor British fashion heritage. The opening reception attracts fashion industry luminaries, members of parliament, and even minor royalty who appreciate the way my American perspective complements rather than competes with British design traditions. Each international location requires hiring and training local staff who understand both my design philosophy and their specific market's expectations. The process involves more than just teaching construction techniques, it requires transmitting the emotional story behind each collection, the significance of quality over quantity, and the importance of creating pieces that empower women rather than simply decorating them. The Paris boutique launches during Fashion Week with a collection specifically designed for the French market's sophisticated aesthetic preferences. French women approach fashion differently than Americans. They invest in fewer, higher quality pieces that they wear repeatedly rather than constantly updating their wardrobes with trendy items. My approach to creating timeless designs with contemporary relevance resonates perfectly with this philosophy, leading to immediate success with Parisian clients who become brand ambassadors within their influential social circles. Managing international operations while maintaining design quality requires building systems Richard never could have imagined during his days of controlling my fabric purchases. We implement digital pattern libraries that ensure consistency across all production facilities, video training programs that teach construction techniques to seamstresses in different countries, and quality control protocols that maintain standards regardless of where pieces are manufactured. The day we signed distribution agreements with luxury department stores in 12 countries, I receive a newspaper clipping from a former colleague of Richard's. The article details his continued financial struggles and includes a quote where he mentions watching my international success with a mixture of pride and regret for not supporting her dreams when we were together. The gesture of sending the clipping seems intended kindly, but Richard's opinion has become as irrelevant to my reality as weather reports from distant countries. International fashion media begins treating me as an established rather than emerging designer. Vogue Italia features my work in an editorial about American designers reshaping global fashion conversations. Harper's Bazaar UK includes me in their annual list of industry innovators who are redefining luxury for a new generation of conscious consumers. The recognition validates not just individual success but the viability of my entire approach to fashion as storytelling and empowerment. The Council of Fashion Designers of America invitation arrives on elegant letterhead that reminds me of the divorce papers I once signed with trembling hands. They want to present me with their International Impact Award during a ceremony at Lincoln Center, recognizing my role in expanding American design influence through culturally sensitive international expansion and commitment to artisanal craftsmanship traditions. Standing backstage before my acceptance speech, I think about the woman who once sat in that courthouse hallway, listening to Richard's confident predictions about my inevitable failure. The awards ceremony audience includes fashion industry titans whose approval I once thought was impossibly beyond reach, business leaders who understand the complexity of successful international expansion, and media representatives who will broadcast my story to millions of viewers worldwide. Claude Cole has redefined what it means to build an authentic global fashion brand, the presenter announces to the glittering audience. Her rapid expansion from local seamstress to international fashion house proves that authentic vision, properly supported and executed, can reshape entire industries while honoring the craftspeople and traditions that make excellence possible. My acceptance speech focuses on the importance of supporting artisan communities in every market where we operate, ensuring that international expansion creates opportunities for local seamstresses rather than displacing traditional craftsmanship with mass production. Global success must benefit the communities that make it possible, I tell the audience. Every Atelier Cole location is designed to celebrate local expertise while contributing to the economic development of the artisan traditions that keep fashion's heritage alive. The standing ovation that follows lasts longer than any I've experienced, but more importantly, it represents recognition from peers who understand the complexity of what I've achieved. Building an international fashion house requires more than creative vision. It demands cultural sensitivity, business acumen, and the ability to maintain quality standards across vastly different operational environments. After the ceremony, Anna Sykes approaches with news that will transform my trajectory once again. Vogue wants to feature you on our September cover, she says, her words carrying the weight of fashion's most coveted honor. Not just your designs but your story of transformation through authentic craftsmanship. You've become a symbol of what's possible when talent meets opportunity and determination. The September issue of Vogue, fashion's most important editorial moment each year, typically features only the industry's most established icons or the rare emerging designer, whose work represents a significant cultural moment. The cover story will be seen by millions worldwide, cementing my position in fashion's permanent hierarchy while introducing my story to audiences far beyond the industry's traditional boundaries. The cover shoot takes place across all 4 flagship locations, with photographers capturing me at work in each cultural context, draping fabric in the Milan atelier, consulting with pattern makers in Tokyo, sketching in the London design studio, and putting finishing touches on a gown in the Paris boutique. The images tell the story of a designer whose vision transcends geographic boundaries while respecting local traditions and expertise. Your journey resonates because it proves that authentic success has no geographic limitations, the photographer explains between shots in the Tokyo studio. Business schools are using your international expansion as a case study in culturally sensitive growth strategies. You've shown that respecting local traditions while maintaining brand integrity creates stronger results than imposing American business practices on international markets. The memoir deal that emerges from the Vogue coverage generates an advance that funds the next phase of expansion, flagship stores in Sydney, Dubai, and São Paulo, each designed to serve as both retail locations and cultural bridges that introduce my design philosophy to entirely new markets. The book, titled Threading Dreams from Seamstress to Global Fashion Force, becomes an international bestseller before publication, with translation deals in 15 languages. Standing in my corporate headquarters late one evening, looking out at the city lights through floor-to-ceiling windows that frame a view Richard never could have afforded during his days of financial manipulation, I realize that my journey has evolved far beyond personal vindication or professional success. The international fashion house that began with my grandmother's sewing machine has become proof that authentic vision, supported by ethical business practices and respect for traditional craftsmanship, can create sustainable enterprises that benefit communities across multiple continents. The woman Richard tried to keep small by controlling her access to fabric and dismissing her creative ambitions has become a global force whose influence extends far beyond fashion into conversations about cultural respect, artisan support, and the responsibility that comes with international success. Each new market we enter, each local seamstress we train, each traditional technique we help preserve, represents another thread in a tapestry that connects women's creative potential across all geographic and cultural boundaries. The empire continues expanding, but its foundation remains the same principles that guided me through those early days of night school and alterations work: respect for quality craftsmanship, commitment to empowering women through beautiful clothing, and the unwavering belief that authentic creativity can overcome any attempt to limit its expression. The letter arrives on Atelier Cole letterhead, but it's addressed to me personally from a women's shelter downtown. The director explains that they've been following my story in the media and wondered if I'd consider teaching sewing classes to women rebuilding their lives after leaving abusive relationships. Your journey from controlled circumstances to creative freedom represents exactly the kind of hope our residents need to see, she writes. The request touches something deep within me, memories of sitting in my own controlled environment, sketching dreams while documenting financial abuse. These women are living the isolation I escaped, trapped by partners who use money, criticism, and psychological manipulation to maintain control. Teaching them practical skills while sharing my story could provide both economic opportunity and emotional healing. I want to do more than teach sewing. I tell Mary as we discuss expanding Atelier Cole's community involvement. I want to create a comprehensive program: business skills, financial literacy, creative development, and mentorship. Everything I had to learn alone, they should learn together. The Phoenix program launches 6 months later, housed in a renovated warehouse adjacent to our original Atelier Cole location. The name reflects our mission, helping women rise from the ashes of controlled circumstances to build independent, creative lives. Each 12-week session combines technical sewing instruction with entrepreneurship training, financial planning, and psychological support. Our first class of 15 women ranges from recent shelter graduates to those still planning their escapes. Maria fled an abusive marriage with her 2 children and nothing else. Sarah left a controlling partner who monitored every penny she spent for 8 years. Jennifer escaped a relationship where her artistic ambitions were dismissed as worthless hobbies, a phrase that makes my chest tighten with recognition. Your story gives me hope, Maria tells me during our 3rd session, holding up the simple skirt she's learning to construct. If you could build all this from sewing alterations, maybe I can build something too. Her hands move with increasing confidence as she guides fabric through the machine, each straight seam a small declaration of independence. The program's impact exceeds every projection. Within a year, 6 graduates have launched their own small sewing businesses, working from home while raising children and rebuilding their credit. 3 others have enrolled in community college fashion programs, using skills learned at Phoenix as their foundation. 2 have joined Atelier Cole's production team as seamstresses, their personal journeys adding depth to their craftsmanship. You're creating more than a training program, observes Dr. Elizabeth Beck, the psychologist who provides counseling support for our participants. You're modeling what's possible when women are given permission to succeed. Many of these women haven't heard encouragement in years, some have never heard it at all. The program's success attracts attention from other cities, leading to franchise opportunities that could spread the Phoenix model nationwide. Women's organizations, business schools, and philanthropic foundations request presentations about our approach to combining practical skill development with emotional healing. During one presentation to a conference of domestic violence advocates, I share the moment that inspired the program's creation. I realized that my grandmother's sewing machine wasn't just a tool for making clothes, I explained to the audience of social workers and advocates. It was a symbol of economic independence, creative expression, and the power to build something beautiful from raw materials. Every woman deserves access to that possibility. The standing ovation that follows leads to partnerships with shelters in 12 cities, each location adapting our curriculum to local needs while maintaining the core philosophy of combining practical skills with emotional empowerment. Corporate sponsors fund equipment and materials, while volunteer instructors, many of them successful businesswomen, with their own stories of overcoming obstacles, provide mentorship and guidance. One evening, while reviewing applications for our next Phoenix cohort, I find a letter that stops me completely. It's from Rachel, Richard's former girlfriend, requesting admission to the program. Her carefully written application describes years of financial control and emotional manipulation that continued long after I left their relationship. I watched you on television, and finally understood that what I was experiencing wasn't normal, she writes. Richard used the same tactics with me that he probably used with you, controlling money, dismissing my dreams, making me feel incapable of surviving alone. I'm ready to learn the skills I need to build my own life. Her admission to the program creates an unexpected full-circle moment. The woman who unknowingly replaced me in Richard's cycle of control now sits in my classroom, learning the same skills that enabled my escape and transformation. There's no awkwardness between us, only recognition of shared experience and mutual support for each other's growth. It's strange, Rachel tells me after her graduation ceremony, displaying the professional blazer she designed and constructed during the program. He made both of us feel small in different ways, but look what we've built when given the chance to grow. Watching her walk across the stage to receive her Phoenix program certificate, I realized that true healing isn't just about personal success, it's about creating pathways for others to discover their own strength and capabilities. The Phoenix program becomes my most meaningful legacy, proving that expertise gained through struggle can transform not just individual lives, but entire communities of women ready to discover what they're truly capable of achieving. 3 years to the day after Richard laughed at my dreams in that courthouse hallway, I stand before a packed auditorium at the Metropolitan Fashion Institute, delivering the keynote address for their annual graduation ceremony. The audience includes emerging designers, industry veterans, and business leaders who understand that authentic success stories deserve to be shared and celebrated. 3 years ago, someone I trusted told me I'd never amount to anything. I begin, my voice carrying clearly through the silent auditorium. He believed that controlling my resources and dismissing my dreams would keep me safely confined to the small role he'd assigned me. He was wrong about my potential, but more importantly, he was wrong about the nature of creativity itself. The graduates lean forward, recognizing their own struggles in my words. Many of them have faced similar dismissal, from families who don't understand artistic ambitions, from partners who see creativity as a luxury rather than a necessity, from society that questions whether fashion design constitutes real work. Creativity cannot be contained by those who lack vision. I continue thinking of my grandmother's sewing machine, now displayed prominently in every Atelier l'école location. Authentic talent will always find its way to the surface, but only if we have the courage to nurture it despite opposition, criticism, and doubt. I share the practical elements of my journey, the documentation that protected me legally, the night school classes that built my skills, the willingness to start at the bottom and work with dedication rather than entitlement. But I focus equally on the psychological transformation required to move from controlled circumstances to creative freedom. The most important lesson I learned wasn't about design or business. I tell them, remembering the terrified woman who once begged for fabric money. It was about trusting my own judgment after years of having it questioned and dismissed. Your inner voice, the one that whispers about possibilities and dreams, that voice knows what you're capable of achieving. The questions during the Conda session reveal how deeply my story resonates beyond fashion. Students ask about overcoming financial control, dealing with family members who dismiss artistic careers, and maintaining creative vision while building sustainable businesses. Their questions remind me that my journey represents something larger than personal success. It's about the universal human need to create, contribute, and be recognized for authentic talent. After the ceremony, I'm approached by a young woman whose story mirrors my own beginnings. My boyfriend says I'm wasting time with fashion school, she confides, clutching her portfolio with the same protective intensity I once reserved for my grandmother's recipe book. He controls our finances and makes me feel guilty for every supply purchase. Your story makes me realize I'm not alone. I spend 20 minutes with her, sharing specific strategies for financial independence and creative development. Document everything, I advise, remembering my own careful record keeping. Build your skills quietly but consistently. And most importantly, never let someone else's fear of your potential become the ceiling for your dreams. That evening, back in my design studio overlooking the city, I reflect on how far the journey has traveled from those early days of hemming pants and dreaming of something bigger. The woman who once had to justify buying basic sewing supplies now employs over 200 artisans worldwide, influences fashion trends across multiple continents, and provides economic opportunities for women escaping circumstances similar to my own. My phone buzzes with a notification, a message from the Phoenix program coordinator. Our latest graduating class includes 22 women who've completed the full entrepreneurship curriculum. 15 have launched independent businesses, 5 have enrolled in advanced fashion programs, and 2 have been hired by established design houses. The program's success rate continues to exceed every projection, proving that authentic support and quality training can transform lives. I open my laptop and begin drafting my next project, a comprehensive online course that will make fashion design education accessible to women regardless of location or financial circumstances. The curriculum will combine technical instruction with business development, financial literacy, and the psychological tools needed to overcome systematic dismissal of creative ambitions. Every woman deserves the opportunity to discover what she's truly capable of creating, I write in the course introduction. Whether your dreams involve fashion, fine art, literature, or any other creative pursuit, the principles remain the same: authentic vision, persistent development of skills, and the courage to trust your own judgment, despite those who would keep you small. The course launches simultaneously in 8 languages, reaching women across 6 continents who share similar stories of controlled circumstances and dismissed dreams. Pre-registration numbers suggest we'll reach over 10,000 students in the first year, each one carrying forward the lesson that creativity, given freedom and support, can transform not just individual lives but entire communities. Looking out at the city lights through my studio windows, I smile at the memory of Richard's confident prediction that I'd never survive without him. The woman he tried to keep small has become larger than his imagination could comprehend, building something that will outlast both our marriage and his attempts to control my potential. The best revenge, I've learned, isn't proving doubters wrong, it's building something so meaningful and authentic that their opinion becomes irrelevant to your reality. The email arrives on a Tuesday morning while I'm reviewing designs for Paris Fashion Week. My assistant hesitates before delivering the message, recognizing the sender's name from years of stories about my past. Richard has requested a meeting, claiming he has important matters to discuss regarding our shared history and his sincere desire to make amends. He's been trying to reach you for weeks, Elizabeth explains, showing me a series of increasingly desperate messages. The tone has shifted from demanding to pleading. Something significant has changed in his circumstances. She pulls up recent news articles revealing the full scope of his financial collapse, bankruptcy proceedings, criminal investigations, and a civil lawsuit from former clients who lost millions through his mismanagement. I study his latest message, noting the careful language of someone who has learned that demands no longer carry weight. He mentions having documents that belong to you, Elizabeth continues, says he found things while packing his possessions that he should have returned years ago. The curiosity wins. 3 years have transformed me so completely that facing Richard feels like meeting a character from someone else's story. I agree to a brief meeting at a neutral location, a downtown cafe far from the glamorous world of fashion shows and international business deals that now define my daily reality. He arrives 15 minutes early, and I watch through the cafe window as he sits alone at a corner table, looking older and significantly diminished. The confident posture is gone, replaced by the hunched shoulders of someone carrying the weight of consequences. His expensive suits have been replaced by off-the-rack clothing that doesn't quite fit, and his once perfect grooming shows signs of financial strain. When I enter, he stands quickly, his face showing genuine relief that I've honored the appointment. "Claude, thank you for agreeing to see me," he says, his voice carrying none of the commanding tone I remember. "You look incredible, successful, everything I should have recognized you were capable of achieving. I take the seat across from him, noting how our roles have completely reversed. Where he once held all the power in our interactions, I now carry the confidence of someone who has built something authentic and lasting. You mentioned having documents that belong to me, I say, keeping the conversation focused and professional. He reaches into a worn briefcase and pulls out a manila envelope. When I was packing to leave the house, it's being foreclosed next month, I found these in my old office safe. Your grandmother's original sewing patterns, some sketches you made during our marriage. He pauses, his hands trembling slightly. Letters you wrote but never sent. I had no right to keep them. The envelope contains treasures I'd forgotten existed. My grandmother's hand-drawn patterns for the dresses she made in the 1940s, complete with her detailed construction notes written in fading ink. Sketches I'd hidden away during our marriage, afraid to leave them where Richard might find and criticize them. And indeed, letters I'd written during my darkest moments, pouring out dreams and frustrations I'd been too controlled to voice aloud. I read some of them, he admits, his voice barely above a whisper. The letters. I had no right. But, Claude, the dreams you wrote about, the designs you imagined, the business plans you outlined, they were extraordinary. Even then, you had vision I was too threatened to recognize. One letter, dated just months before our divorce, contains a detailed plan for the exact type of fashion house I eventually built. The sketches show designs remarkably similar to pieces that later won awards and graced red carpets. My younger self had possessed clarity of vision that Richard's control couldn't diminish, only temporarily suppress. Why are you showing me this now? I ask, genuinely curious about his motivation. The man who once mocked these same dreams is now presenting them as evidence of my early brilliance. Because I need you to understand that I knew, he says, his composure finally cracking. Some part of me always knew you were capable of greatness. That's what made me so desperate to control you. I was terrified that if you ever realized your potential, you'd leave me behind. He wipes his eyes with the back of his hand, a gesture I've never seen from him. And you did. You should have. His confession carries the weight of 3 years' worth of watching my success from the sidelines while his own world crumbled. I've lost everything, Claude. The business, the house, most of my friends. But watching you succeed, even from a distance, has been the only bright spot in this nightmare. You became everything I tried to prevent you from becoming, and the world is better for it. I study his face, searching for manipulation or hidden agenda, but finding only genuine remorse and admiration. The man who once controlled every aspect of my life is now asking for nothing more than acknowledgement that he finally understands what he destroyed. Thank you for returning these, I say, holding the envelope that contains pieces of my creative history. They belong to a chapter of my life that's long closed, but I'm glad to have them back. He nods, understanding that our conversation has reached its natural conclusion. As I prepare to leave the cafe, Richard's voice stops me with a tone I've never heard before, raw desperation wrapped in careful humility. Claude, wait, please. There's something else I need to say. Something I've been rehearsing for months but can never find the right words for. I pause, my hand on the door handle, curious about what could require months of preparation from a man who once spoke to me with such casual dismissal. He gestures to the empty chair, and something in his expression, vulnerability, mixed with profound regret, convinces me to sit back down. I've been following your career, he begins, his voice steadier now, but still carrying that unfamiliar weight of humility. Not stalking, nothing inappropriate, just reading the articles, watching the interviews. I saw the CNN feature, the Vogue cover, the Phoenix program launch. Every success felt like another piece of evidence of how wrong I was about everything. He pulls out his phone, showing me a saved article from last month's Harper's Bazaar. This interview, where you talked about overcoming systematic dismissal of your dreams, I must have read it 50 times. Every word was a reminder of how I tried to make you smaller instead of celebrating what you were capable of becoming. His confession continues in a rush, as if he's afraid I'll leave before he can say everything he's rehearsed. I know I have no right to ask this, no reason to expect you to even consider it, but I've been hoping, wondering if there might be any possibility of us finding our way back to each other. The request hangs between us like fabric suspended in midair, surreal and completely unexpected. The man who laughed at my courthouse dreams is asking the internationally recognized fashion designer he tried to suppress to consider rebuilding a relationship he systematically destroyed. I know how that sounds, he continues quickly, reading the shock on my face. I know what I put you through, how I controlled and diminished you. But losing everything has taught me what really matters. You were the most remarkable person in my life, and I was too insecure to appreciate what I had. I study his face, searching for any trace of the manipulative tactics I remember so well. Instead, I see something that looks like genuine transformation, the kind that only comes from losing everything you thought defined your worth. Richard, what exactly are you asking me? I'm asking if you could ever forgive me enough to give us another chance, he says, his voice barely steady. I've lost the house, the business, most of my friends, but losing you was the real tragedy. Watching you succeed without me made me realize that supporting your dreams should have been my greatest accomplishment. The irony is staggering. The woman he tried to keep dependent on him has become completely independent, while the man who controlled every aspect of our financial life has lost control of his own circumstances entirely. You want me to take you back now that you have nothing left to offer. I'm not offering nothing, he says, leaning forward with sudden intensity. I'm offering everything I should have given you from the beginning: respect, support, partnership. I know I can't provide the lifestyle I once could, but I could be the partner you deserved, the one who celebrates your success instead of fearing it. His proposal reveals a fundamental misunderstanding of who I've become. Richard, you're asking me to rescue you from consequences of choices you made while trying to control me. The woman you're appealing to, the one who might have been grateful for your renewed attention, doesn't exist anymore. I know you've changed, he insists. I've watched you become this incredible force in the fashion world, but maybe I've changed too. Maybe losing everything was what I needed to become worthy of someone like you. The desperation in his voice is genuine, but it's the desperation of someone who has finally realized the value of what he deliberately destroyed. You want forgiveness and reconciliation now that I've proven my worth despite your efforts to prevent it. I want the chance to be the partner I should have been, he says, to support your dreams instead of crushing them, to celebrate your success instead of resenting it. I know I don't deserve it, but I'm asking anyway, because the alternative is spending the rest of my life knowing I lost the most extraordinary woman I'll ever meet. His words carry the weight of genuine remorse, but they also reveal the persistent self-centeredness that defined our marriage. Even in his plea for reconciliation, Richard frames my potential forgiveness as something that would benefit him rather than us. He still sees my success as validation for his renewed interest rather than evidence of what I was always capable of achieving. I appreciate your honesty, I tell him, meaning it genuinely. But the woman you're asking to take you back isn't someone who needs rescuing or partnership validation. I've built a life that's complete without you, successful beyond anything we imagined together. His face crumbles as he realizes that his carefully rehearsed appeal has failed to move me. The transformation he hoped would win me back has come too late, after I'd already transformed myself into someone who no longer needs his approval or partnership to thrive. The silence stretches between us as Richard processes my words, his face cycling through emotions I've never seen him display: disappointment, acceptance, and something that might be genuine respect. For the first time in our entire history together, he seems to be truly listening to what I'm saying rather than formulating his next argument. "You've really moved on completely, haven't you?" he asks, his voice carrying wonder rather than resentment. "Not just professionally, but you don't need anything from me anymore. Not forgiveness, not closure, not even acknowledgement of what I put you through." His observation is more accurate than he realizes. The woman sitting across from him bears little resemblance to the controlled wife who once craved his approval. "I moved on the day I walked out of that courthouse," I tell him. "Everything since then has been about building something authentic, not proving anything to you or anyone else who doubted me. I keep imagining what our life could have been if I'd supported you from the beginning," he continues, his voice taking on a wistful quality. "If I'd celebrated your talent instead of fearing it, if I'd encouraged your dreams instead of controlling them, we could have built something extraordinary together." The hypothetical scenarios he's constructing feel like fantasy fiction. "Richard, you didn't accidentally control me or coincidentally dismiss my dreams. Those were deliberate choices that reflected who you were then. You can't simply decide retroactively that you would have acted differently." He nods slowly, finally seeming to grasp the permanence of consequences. "You're right. I spent years making conscious decisions to keep you small because your potential threatened my sense of superiority. I can't undo that or pretend it was just poor judgment." For the first time in our conversation, his self-awareness feels genuine rather than performative. "The woman you fell in love with, if you ever really did, was someone whose wings you immediately tried to clip. The woman I've become would never tolerate that kind of treatment." "I did love you," he says quietly. "But I loved the version of you that made me feel important, not the version that might surpass me. That's not really love at all, is it?" His question hangs in the air as I consider how to respond. The man who once controlled every aspect of my creative expression is now asking me to educate him about the nature of authentic love. Love supports growth, Richard. It celebrates the other person's success and finds joy in their achievements. What we had was your need for control disguised as partnership. "And now," he asks, his voice barely audible, "is there any part of you that remembers what we had before I ruined it? Any possibility that someday—" "There's no before you ruined it," I interrupt gently but firmly. "The control and dismissal started almost immediately. You didn't ruin something good, you prevented something good from ever developing." The truth of this statement hits me as I speak it, clarifying feelings I've carried for years without fully understanding them. His shoulders sag as the last hope visibly drains from his expression. "So when you said I'd never amount to anything, you were wrong. But when I tell you there's no chance for us, I'm right. I wasn't wrong about your potential," I correct him. "I was wrong about my right to limit it. You've become everything I was too threatened to let you become, and that's exactly what should have happened." The admission carries genuine admiration mixed with profound regret. For perhaps the first time in our relationship, Richard is seeing me clearly, not as an extension of his needs or a threat to his ego, but as an independent person whose success exists entirely separate from his influence. "What happens now?" he asks, gathering the courage to face a future that doesn't include reconciliation with the woman whose dreams he spent years trying to destroy. "Now you rebuild your life based on who you've become, not who you were with me," I tell him, meaning it as kindly as possible. "And I continue building mine based on the vision that survived despite your attempts to suppress it." He reaches across the table briefly, not quite touching my hand but close enough to convey sincerity. "I want you to know that watching you succeed has been the best education I could have received about what I lost. Not just you, but the chance to be proud of supporting something extraordinary. I hope you find whatever it is you're looking for, I say, echoing the words I spoke years ago in that courthouse hallway. This time, though, they carry genuine compassion rather than dismissive finality. As I stand to leave, Richard makes no attempt to prolong the conversation or extract promises of future contact. "Thank you for meeting with me," he says simply, "and thank you for becoming everything you were meant to be despite my efforts to prevent it." Walking away from the cafe, I feel the final thread of our shared history dissolve completely. The man who once controlled my dreams has become a footnote in the story of my success, someone who provided opposition that ultimately strengthened my resolve, rather than crushing my spirit. The woman he tried to keep small has grown far beyond his ability to influence, and that growth continues, accelerating toward possibilities he never had vision enough to imagine. The weeks following my meeting with Richard bring an unexpected clarity to my daily routine. His desperate plea and subsequent rejection have closed a chapter I didn't realize still needed ending. The emotional energy I'd unconsciously reserved for processing our shared history now flows freely into my work, my relationships, and my vision for Atelier's future. "You seem different lately," Mary observes during our weekly planning session. "More focused, more decisive. Even your design sketches have a new boldness to them." She's right. The collection I'm developing for next spring contains my most innovative work yet, pieces that push creative boundaries with the confidence of someone who no longer carries any doubt about her artistic vision. The Phoenix program graduates from our latest cohort are launching their businesses with remarkable success rates. Maria, the woman who fled her abusive marriage with nothing, sends me photos of her first boutique, a small storefront specializing in children's clothing that she designs and produces herself. Her Instagram account shows her working late into the evening, her children playing nearby as she creates garments with the same passion that once drove me through night school classes. "Your program didn't just teach me to sew," she writes in her thank you note. "It taught me that my dreams matter enough to work for, that I can trust my own judgment about what's beautiful and valuable. Watching you build your empire while supporting others showed me what authentic success looks like." Her words remind me why the Phoenix program has become my most meaningful achievement. Each woman who graduates carries forward the lesson that creativity, given proper support and training, can transform entire families and communities. The ripple effect extends far beyond individual success stories. International expansion continues at an accelerated pace. The Milan flagship opens to lines of customers eager to experience my designs in person, while the Tokyo location becomes a destination for fashion enthusiasts from across Asia. Each new market validates my belief that authentic design vision transcends cultural boundaries when it's rooted in genuine craftsmanship and honest storytelling. The memoir I've been writing during early morning hours before the studio opens is nearing completion. Working with a publisher who specializes in business transformation stories, we've crafted a narrative that focuses on practical strategies for escaping controlled circumstances and building authentic success. The advance orders suggest it will reach far beyond the fashion industry, touching anyone who has been told their dreams are unrealistic or unworthy. Your story resonates because it's specific enough to be credible but universal enough to inspire action, my editor explains during our final review session. Readers see themselves in your journey, regardless of their particular circumstances or creative aspirations. The book launch is scheduled to coincide with Fashion Week, creating a media moment that will amplify both my personal story and the broader message about supporting women's entrepreneurial dreams. Pre-interview conversations with major media outlets reveal genuine interest in the psychological aspects of my transformation, not just the business success that followed. One evening, while working late in my design studio, I receive a call that brings my journey full circle in an unexpected way. Henrietta, now in her 70s and preparing to fully retire, wants to discuss transferring complete ownership of the original alterations shop to the Phoenix program. Her proposal would create a permanent training facility where women can learn skills while contributing to a sustainable business model. You gave me the chance to end my career knowing I helped launch something meaningful, she tells me over dinner at the restaurant where we first discussed my potential. Now I want to ensure that other women have the same opportunity you had, a place to develop skills while being treated with respect and dignity. The legal arrangements take weeks to finalize, but by month's end, the Phoenix Training Center officially becomes a permanent institution. The renovated space includes modern equipment alongside vintage machines that honor the tradition of craftsmanship, creating an environment where historical techniques merge seamlessly with contemporary business practices. Standing in the training center during our official opening ceremony, I think about the woman who once hemmed pants for $8 an hour in this same space, dreaming of something bigger while documenting her husband's financial betrayals and the margins of her grandmother's patterns. That woman could never have imagined the empire that would grow from those humble beginnings. The local fashion journalists document the ceremony for their publications, but it's the personal stories that matter most. Each Phoenix program graduate in attendance represents proof that authentic support and quality training can transform circumstances that once seemed hopeless into foundations for remarkable achievement. As the evening concludes and the last guests depart, I remain in the quiet training center, surrounded by the tools and workstations that will shape the next generation of women entrepreneurs. My grandmother's sewing machine holds its place of honor, but it's no longer a relic of the past, it's a bridge to futures limited only by imagination and sustained by skill. The woman Richard tried to keep small has become a force for expanding others' possibilities, and that transformation continues accelerating beyond anything he had vision enough to fear. The invitation arrives on official UNESCO letterhead, the kind of prestigious correspondence I once could never have imagined receiving. They want me to speak at their International Women's Entrepreneurship Summit in Geneva, addressing delegates from 50 countries about creative industries as pathways to economic independence. The theme focuses specifically on helping women escape controlling circumstances through skill development and business creation. This isn't just about fashion anymore, Mary observes as we review the speaking engagement details. You've become a symbol of transformation that resonates across cultures and industries. The UNESCO invitation proves your story has global relevance. The preparation for Geneva requires weeks of research into international economic development strategies and cross-cultural approaches to women's empowerment. My presentation will share specific methodologies from the Phoenix program, while addressing how similar initiatives could be adapted for different countries and economic contexts. During this preparation period, I receive news that transforms my understanding of my own impact. A documentary filmmaker from the BBC wants to create a feature-length film about my journey, but with a focus on the women whose lives have been changed through the Phoenix program. The proposal includes following recent graduates as they build their businesses, creating a narrative that extends far beyond my personal success story. Your individual achievement is remarkable, the filmmaker explains during our initial meeting. But what makes it truly significant is how you've used that success to create systematic change. We want to document the multiplier effect, how one woman's escape from control has enabled dozens of others to escape their own controlled circumstances. The documentary crew spends 3 months documenting daily life at Atelier Cole and the Phoenix Training Center. They capture Maria teaching her own daughter to sew, passing forward skills she learned during her time in our program. They interview Sarah, who now employs 5 other Phoenix graduates in her thriving custom clothing business. They document Jennifer's first fashion show, featuring designs that blend her artistic vision with the technical skills she developed during her recovery from an abusive relationship. "What strikes me most about your approach," the director tells me during our final interview, "is how you've created a sustainable model for transformation. You're not just helping individuals, you're changing the economic possibilities for entire communities of women." Her observation crystallizes something I've been feeling but couldn't articulate. The Phoenix program has evolved beyond charity or even social enterprise. It's become a reproducible system for converting controlled circumstances into economic independence and creative fulfillment. The Geneva Summit exceeds every expectation. My presentation to delegates from developing nations generates immediate interest in adapting the Phoenix model for their local contexts. Representatives from Kenya want to incorporate textile training into their women's cooperative programs. Brazilian officials discuss using similar methodologies to help domestic violence survivors achieve economic independence. European delegates share strategies for expanding creative industries as tools for integration of refugee women. "You've created something that transcends your original circumstances," comments Dr. Amara Hassan, UNESCO's Director of Women's Economic Empowerment, during the closing reception. The Phoenix program represents exactly the kind of scalable, culturally adaptable intervention that can create lasting change for women worldwide. Her words carry weight that extends far beyond personal validation. "The model we've developed in one American city has applications for women facing controlled circumstances across completely different cultures and economic systems. The fundamental principles, skill development, financial literacy, psychological support, and business mentorship, translate effectively across national boundaries." The months following Geneva bring partnership offers from organizations I've only read about in business magazines. The World Bank wants to pilot Phoenix-style programs in 5 countries. A major foundation offers funding to establish training centers in 10 American cities. European fashion houses inquire about collaboration opportunities that would combine their heritage craftsmanship traditions with our empowerment methodologies. Each opportunity represents exponential expansion of impact, but also challenges of maintaining quality and authenticity while scaling rapidly. The careful attention to individual transformation that makes our program effective could be lost if growth happens too quickly or without proper oversight. We need to approach this strategically, I tell our expanded management team during our quarterly planning retreat. The goal isn't just to grow the Phoenix program, it's to ensure every woman who participates receives the same quality of support and training that made our original graduates successful. The solution involves creating a certification system for Phoenix instructors and a standardized curriculum that maintains our core principles while allowing for local adaptation. We develop partnerships with established educational institutions and women's organizations that already have community trust and infrastructure. By year's end, the Phoenix program operates in 15 cities across 3 countries, with applications pending for expansion into 12 more locations. Each site maintains connection to our original training center, creating a network of women entrepreneurs who support each other across geographic and cultural boundaries. Standing in my Geneva hotel room, after the summit's conclusion, looking out at the lake where international delegates from 50 nations have just committed to supporting creative industries as tools for women's economic empowerment, I realize that my journey has evolved far beyond personal success or even revenge against someone who underestimated my potential. The woman Richard tried to keep small has become a catalyst for global change, proving that authentic transformation, when shared generously, can reshape possibilities for women everywhere. 5 years after that courthouse encounter where Richard predicted my failure, I stand in the boardroom of the newly established Cole Foundation, reviewing grant applications from women entrepreneurs across 4 continents. The foundation, funded by Adelaide Cole's international success, represents the ultimate evolution of my journey from controlled circumstances to global influence. We have applications from over 3,000 women this quarter, announces Dr. Sarah Beck, the Foundation's executive director, and a Phoenix program graduate, who earned her MBA while building her own successful consulting firm. The demand for microloans, training programs, and mentorship far exceeds our current capacity, but the success rates continue to exceed projections. The Foundation's impact reports read like validation of every risk I took during those early years of rebuilding my life. Women who received grants have launched businesses in industries ranging from sustainable fashion to technology startups. The common thread isn't the specific field they've chosen, but the psychological transformation that occurs when someone believes in their potential enough to provide concrete support. Among this quarter's applications, one catches my attention with startling familiarity. The applicant is Rachel, Richard's former girlfriend who graduated from our Phoenix program 2 years ago. She's requesting expansion funding for her Seattle-based sustainable fashion boutique, which now employs 12 people and has been featured in 3 national magazines for its innovative approach to ethically sourced clothing. I never imagined when I entered your program that I'd be capable of building something this significant, she writes in her application essay. The skills and confidence I gained during those 12 weeks didn't just help me escape a controlling relationship, they enabled me to create employment opportunities for other women facing similar circumstances. Her business model directly mirrors the Phoenix program's philosophy, proving that the transformation principles we've developed create leaders who naturally extend opportunities to others. The ripple effect continues expanding in directions I couldn't have anticipated when I first began teaching sewing skills to shelter residents. The day Rachel's grant is approved, I receive an email that brings my story full circle in the most unexpected way. It's from a journalist working on a feature about Richard's current circumstances, 5 years after his financial collapse. The reporter has discovered that he's been volunteering at a local community center, teaching basic financial literacy to people recovering from bankruptcy and debt problems. He specifically requested that his volunteer work not be publicized, the journalist writes. But several program participants mentioned his name when we interviewed them about effective financial recovery resources. He seems to have developed genuine expertise in helping people rebuild after losing everything. The information arrives without triggering any emotional response, no satisfaction, no vindication, no lingering resentment. Richard has become as irrelevant to my emotional landscape as any stranger who once crossed my path briefly. His current activities, whether motivated by genuine transformation or mere survival strategy, have no bearing on the empire I've built, or the women whose lives continue changing through programs I've established. That same week, the documentary about the Phoenix program premieres at the Sundance Film Festival, earning standing ovations and immediate distribution deals with major streaming platforms. The film follows 5 Phoenix graduates over 2 years, documenting their business launches, personal growth, and the ways they've begun supporting other women in their communities. The most powerful aspect of this story, writes the New York Times critic in her review, isn't the individual success narratives, but the evidence of systematic change. Cole has created a reproducible model for transformation that extends far beyond her personal journey of overcoming adversity. The film's success generates international speaking requests that would have seemed impossible during my years of controlled circumstances. Universities invite me to address business schools about entrepreneurship and resilience. International conferences request presentations about scalable social enterprise models. Government agencies seek consultation on women's economic empowerment strategies. Each speaking engagement reinforces the same central message: authentic success isn't about defeating those who doubt you. It's about building something so meaningful that their opinions become irrelevant to your reality. The woman Richard tried to control has become a force he could never have imagined, not through spite or revenge, but through the steady cultivation of authentic vision and generous support of others' potential. During a recent interview for Forbes magazine's cover story about the Cole Foundation's global impact, the journalist asks about my current relationship with the past that shaped my trajectory. Do you ever think about how different your life might have been if your marriage had been supportive rather than controlling? I think about how different many women's lives are becoming because I learned to transform opposition into opportunity, I reply. Every woman who graduates from our programs, every entrepreneur who receives foundation support, every person who reads my story and finds courage to pursue their own dreams, they represent the true measure of transformation. The interview concludes with a question about my hopes for the foundation's next decade. Looking at the wall of my office, where photos of Phoenix graduates building their own businesses create a mosaic of possibility, I realize that my journey from seamstress to global changemaker has become something far more significant than personal vindication. It has become proof that one woman's refusal to accept limitations can create unlimited possibilities for countless others.
Up next, you've got 2 more standout stories right on your screen. If this one hit the mark, you won't want to pass these up. Just click and check them out. And don't forget to subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss any upload from us.